Welcome to the Rules Committee meeting. Meeting is at 12:04. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you. At this time, I'd ask Council Hargis, would you please do the honors and bless the meeting?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon the Cherokee Nation. We ask you, God, just to keep your hand upon each and every one that is here and each and every one of our soldiers. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Council. Roll call, Shelley.
Yes, sir. Joe Bird.
Ani.
Brian Warner.
Ani.
Bill England.
Ani.
Keith Austin.
Here.
John Guzzard.
Here.
Sean Crittenden.
Ani.
Mike Robbins. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Wanda Hatfield.
Honey.
Rex Jordan.
Here.
Dick Lay. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Mary Bakershaw. Honey. Keo Smith.
Here.
Denise Taylor. Here. Victoria Lespers. Honey. David Walking Stick.
Ani.
We have one.
Thank you, Shelley. The minutes were mailed to you. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve. Got a motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Drop it down to reports. Marshall, Mr. Shannon Buell.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Craig. I'm one of Shannon's captains. Shannon's on travel today. He asked me to come over and see if there was anything that I could do to clarify the report or any questions that I might be able to try to answer.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Walkenstick.
I'm sure Shannon briefed me yesterday as far as the compensation on pay on Title 25. Can you kind of give us the status or brief us on that?
The only thing that I am aware of, sir, is I know that the packet has been provided to Human Resources, and Human Resources is actually doing an evaluation of it at this point.
Okay.
And that's where it's at.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Chair.
Good. Anybody else? Any questions for our Marshal Department? Okay. Good report. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Office of Attorney General, Chris Nemo.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
I do not remember on timeline last time if we had got the news that the stay had been denied in the ICWA case. I don't know. So the case out of Texas where they found the Indian Child Welfare Act to be unconstitutional, we will appeal that, but we had filed for a stay pending appeal, which meant the decision wouldn't go into effect, and the stay was denied on that. We will be appealing. We have 60 days from the date of the decision to file notice of appeal, and we're hoping to be somewhat on a timeline with the United States on that, so we're just waiting a little longer to file, because once you file, it sets into motion briefing schedules and those type of things. But we will be filing an appeal to the Fifth Circuit, which is the circuit that decided the Dollar General Mississippi Choctaw case. So we have a little bit of hope that they'll give us a good Indian law decision in this case. The other recent case that we had pending was the motion that was filed in the D.C. Nash case, where someone was asking that the residency requirements and the time for that be enjoined. We have, with the United States, sought an extension on our time to reply to that. I think it's due December 7th now, so we will be filing that as well. We think that is without merit, but we still have to answer it, so we'll make sure you all get a copy of that when we file it. Outside of that, do you have any questions?
Any questions for Attorney General's office? Yes, Councilor Walkenstick.
The Murphy case is coming up here.
It is, oral argument is on November 27th, and A.G. Hembry and Peyton Qualls from our office, she did a lot of work on our amicus brief on that. They're both going to go attend the oral argument on that. And it will likely be, it may be as late as June next year before we get a decision. It'll definitely be after the first of the year when they come back in session. But for whatever reasons, a lot of times the opinions in Indian law cases come out towards the end of their term, which ends in June. So it could be as early as February, and we'll just have to wait and see on that.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Buzzer.
What about the UKBK that's in the district?
It's at 10th Circuit, and we're waiting for a decision. They don't have any, I mean, it's been argued, we did oral argument, they don't have any timelines, so you'll know when we know.
Sounds good. Anybody else? How, the 47 Act, there's another word for that.
Stigler Act.
Stigler Act, okay.
Sarah Hill is or was in DC on that. There was some possible proposed amended language. That happened yesterday, maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
Okay.
anything on it.
All right.
We'll get you an update.
What was the proposed language?
I don't know. It wasn't ours. There were, bills introduced and other people have input on it. We'll get that information to you all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good report, Chris. Okay, Gwen Terrapin.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
To date, we've had 17 requests so far. 14 of those are FOIA and 3 are GRA. And at this time, none of those are outstanding. And all of you should have gotten a copy of my report, and the website's been updated.
Okay, any questions for Gwen? Thank you, Gwen. You know, we really had a batting log before you came into this department with your staff, so we appreciate you catching us up and getting us taken care of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
I believe you do have my report. I have one correction where we have our tax commission meeting on December 12th at 4:30. That's been changed to 10 o'clock on December the 12th. That's the only correction that I have in there. I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Sharon on tax? Yeah, what are you serving that day on the 12th?
Actually, at 10 o'clock, I think we are having Danishes that morning. So.
Sounds good.
You're welcome to come.
Okay. Good report. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Gaming Commission, Jamie Hummingbird.
Sionigat.
Yo.
Tuhiju.
Horse.
Osta. Did my report make it into the packet this month? It made it? Okay. It's been kind of a crazy month or so for me, and I was hoping I got it in on time. Naturally, I'll answer any questions you have on it, but I do have a couple of other items to share with the committee today. A few weeks ago, the NIGC commemorated 30 years of the passage of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. They held a small, brief event at their location in Washington, D.C., where a number of tribal leaders and former and current congressional representatives were in attendance to mark that historic passage of that bill. The 30 years doesn't seem like it's been 30 years. I've been doing this job now just over 20. And it's been a heck of a ride, and I'm excited about what the next 30 years of vigor will do for Indian tribes. The construction projects at Catoosa and Tahlequah are on track. Everything seems to be going on time, knock on wood. We will be able to finish and open those facilities on as projected. We are currently doing our end-of-year facility reviews for our facility licensing process, which the facility licenses are issued for a period of 1 year, and they expire on December 31st. So we do our facility license reviews so that we can meet NIGC compliance and provide them with a certification that our operations are being maintained and operated in a safe manner. So we'll be putting those up at our next commission meeting, which happens to be on December the 7th. We've combined the November and December meetings due to scheduling and due to holidays. So we'll be meeting at December 7th here in Tahlequah. And that following Wednesday is our all CNGC staff meeting. We'll be meeting at the
I believe we're going to be meeting over here at the community room behind the restaurant. You're all invited to attend. All of the commission staff come in from all of the satellite offices, and we have our traditional meal. We do a hog fry and beans and fry bread and all that. So now that I've advertised the menu, I expect probably half of Cherokee Nation will be there. But that's okay. We don't turn anybody away. And if you look at me, I could probably miss a meal or two. I'll give you my plate, Frank, if you want to come over. With that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Good report. Anybody? Councilor Buzzard?
Jamie, I didn't think to ask this, but Sean a while ago, but since the ball and dice games come in, are we looking at adding more games to different casinos, or what is the status of those? Are they doing what they thought they would do, or do you know that?
Right now, from what I understand, they are performing as expected, if not a little bit better. I don't have the numbers in front of me to give you any kind of clearer indication than that. As far as expanding into other locations, right now I have not been told of any plans to do so.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Question. You may know this. The Mashpee tribe, okay, they had land in trust, and they just had that land in trust removed.
Correct.
Is that the first that you know of? That's the first that I know of.
That is a brand new thing. I've never heard that done before. I know the Mashpees have had a very long road to get towards where they could offer up a gaming facility there in Massachusetts, but it has been a weird circumstance for them getting their recognition, taking them as long as they did, and then having this years and years long process of getting land into trust, and then to have everything kind of taken away at the last second. It threw a lot of us off guard because we weren't expecting that.
I'm sure. Their leader was at NCAI, and he was in tears. He said, we met the Pilgrims on the Mayflower. He said, if we had only known.
Pushed them back out.
He didn't go into that, but that's what he said. No, that's the only tribe I know.
That's the only time I've ever heard of that happening.
Did they have a gaming facility?
No, they did not. That was one of the things that they needed, the last pieces they needed to get that project going. They had already had a lot of development on the gaming side, on the regulatory side, I know for sure, to get things in place for them to start that process, but it won't happen now.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Jamie. Good report.
Thank you.
Human Resources, Dr. Mason Morton.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
For this report, I have nothing new to add. Very brief. I will have a longer report for you next month. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Shaw.
I'm curious about elder care. Elder care, are you connected with their HR department at elder care?
We work with them, yes.
You work with them. Can you explain that to me and how it's different than the Cherokee Nation HR that you represent, obviously?
Yes. For Cherokee Nation employees, it's the we do the day-to-day stuff, all the from the time you hired to the time you are retire. With the elder care, we assist with the certain processes they have and help with guidance. But they do the...
Can you explain those processes? I mean, I've received, I don't know, a lot of phone calls here recently about elder care, and this is how I became aware they had their own HR person. Explain this to me. I want to know.
As far as what they do on the day-to-day, I don't know because I'm not involved in that portion of it. But we do assist if they have questions regarding discipline.
Are they keeping you busy right now?
I don't.
I've received a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm underrating how many calls I've received. and it's alarming to me.
I'll give you a little bit of information, Counselor. So Cherokee Elder Care is a entity that is created under legislation by this body. They're separate because they bill Medicare. They're not considered kind of under the umbrella. We didn't consider them employees. We treated them as if they were a separate entity. There was a termination case several years ago where the person was fired, and the question arose, did they go through our administrative appeals process? That went to court, and the court said, the constitutional language is very broad. It says any employee having been here for 1 year can only be removed for cause, and the court decided that those elder care employees were covered under that provision of the Constitution. So at least for whether or not you have to have cause to terminate them and whether or not they can sue for reinstatement, that they fall under Cherokee Nation. So because of that, there was agreement between HR, our HR, and Cherokee Elder Care HR that when they were doing disciplinary actions that could rise to the level of termination, that our HR and our AG's office would be involved, because if they can appeal those, and we would then defend those in court. But we don't, I don't know if HR has any additional interaction with them as far as benefits or anything like that, but the reason that they're kind of under the umbrella is because the court said for employment purposes and being able to sue to get your job back, that you're covered under the Constitution. So that's how they came to be involved with us. Before that, they weren't. They were kind of a complete separate standalone entity. They have their own budgets, they have their own bank accounts. But because of that court decision, we decided, at least for employee actions, we have to be associated with them.
Chrissy, should they be reporting to council then? Because they don't. They presently do not. Who do they report to if they're part
of? So they have a board that chief appoints, council confirms, and then they have staff. I believe their top level is director, executive director. Again, the question of whether or not they're under us, I think, depends on what we're looking at. When it comes to money, they're not. When it comes to whether or not their employees are covered by the Constitution, they are, because the court said they are. So I think it depends on what the issue kind of at question is. But I would think they would be willing. I mean, I think the council could request that they provide reports.
Okay, and under which group would it be?
I don't know. that's part of the.
Would you please think about this, because I think we need to bring it up in front of council. I mean, I'm minimalizing the amount of calls I have received, and some of them are kind of serious, very serious, I would say.
We will send you the. I'll make sure you have the resolution that they were created, because when you look at it, there are other entities that we appoint board members to that we don't have direct control over, and that's how we kind of always considered this. And they have very strict rules because of their Medicare billing and all that on, their finances and who they can hire and what qualifications they have to have and all of that. So that is all outside of us, because that's all determined by Medicare, and they have to follow those rules, and they get audited and that type of thing. So
if they were in trouble with Medicare, would that affect here? I mean, Cherokee Nation Healthcare Services or anything?
I don't know. They're not considered under Cherokee Health and under our division of health. They don't fall directly under Dr. Grimm.
Thank you.
But if we need to, we can have them to report. Then what you might do is give an updated organizational chart to her on how they fall and who are the managers. Not you, but the appropriate people. They're kind of like the housing authority. They're a separate entity. Correct. With their own board. We confirm or deny the board members, but we can have them come and report if you choose to. Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
Good report.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, next, old business, resolution. This is a resolution recommending requirements for Supreme Court Justice appointment request for comment from the Cherokee Nation Judicial Branch. We looked at this, and it's going to be legislation, but we backed off of it. I backed off of it and just made some suggestions that the justices could look into and make comments or make suggestions themselves and I wanted to do that in form of a resolution instead of legislation. So someone can put that in form of a motion if they choose, or you have discussion.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Discussion? Yes, Counselor Austin.
This is saying that they have to be a member of the bar, basically, right?
Yes, it's very minimum, and these aren't directives, these are recommendations.
Okay. My only issue with that is the being a member of the bar is essentially paying your dues.
Sure. Like being a school teacher, certificate, you pay your dues.
Yeah. You're paying your dues, but there's no, it really doesn't mean much beyond that, to my understanding, because the Bar Association doesn't have any kind of a requirement that you must serve so many pro bono hours, or you must do certain cultural activities, or have cases in front of this court, or anything to that effect.
Sure.
So there's very little that it actually means.
Yeah.
And it's legislating something that really doesn't.
It's not legislation, it's a resolution.
Understood.
Okay. Anybody else? Walker Stick, did you have something?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yes.
What do your dues go to, though, for that? Do you know? Does anybody know what the dues go to?
Alina?
Well, next tomorrow, there's a Cherokee Nation Bar Association meeting. And so I know some of those dues go to pay for annual continuing legal education, which we are required to get every year. Also, it's to host this meeting. I'm not sure what else it's used for. I don't know if there's anybody else that can speak to that.
Well, if nothing else, to support that and just basically supporting that you are part of it is, I think that would be important too. But if that money is used to fund things like that, I think it is important.
And I can make a recommendation to the Bar Association to look at other ways we can involve more attorneys in our association. So.
Okay. You know, we didn't have much of a criteria. We haven't really reviewed this and had any recommendation from the council, so this was just a suggestion. When I first looked at it, I thought legislation. I said, no, don't want to impose anything on the justices. We'll just do a resolution and make recommendation. They'd either take those or deny or add. I mean, it's just something that I felt like, be a part of something. If you're going to be part of the Cherokee Nation, show some history that you know a little bit about, you know, Wooster v. Georgia, or the history of our tribe. Don't just come in here and say, I've got a card, I want to be part of you, and I want to serve on these boards. I'm just trying to give us a criteria for as a beginning. It's really all I was recommending. Anybody else?
Speakers, you know, some tribes have a test of some sort, like you guys were discussing. Is that something that the Cherokee Bar Association could draft up, maybe an exam of some sort to be a part of that? Maybe some general questions, like Speaker was saying about door dippers.
It'll be their call.
It would be, yeah, it would be their call, and I do believe that they have to have the Supreme Court's approval on that as well.
Okay, Jody?
I was going to mention
the budget.
There was the budget, you guys, MOD actually separated out the Cherokee Nation Bar Association into its own accounting unit, and those funds will be retained just for that. And their program narrative, I mean, I could read it, but if you wanted to, but there's kind of defines what those dues are to be used for. So
it's a brief narrative.
The Cherokee Nation Bar Association is comprised of attorneys who are approved to practice in the Cherokee Nation courts. Members pay an annual bar due of $50, which keeps their membership current. The fees received are used to fund CLEs put on by the Cherokee Nation Bar Association officers. Expenses include rental space for venue and equipment, office supplies, honorariums for guest speakers, and mileage. These funds were previously deposited into the Supreme Court budget, and it's just explaining how it's being separated now. It's only going to be use for those items. And
Okay. Thank you, Jody.
And I will say it is a requirement to practice in our courts that you be a member of the Cherokee Nation Bar Association.
You practice in our court.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Austin.
Does being a member of the bar require you to go to CLE, continuing learning?
No, the state bar requires you to go to, requires you to get 12 CLEs every year.
Okay, but that's state, not our bar.
State, not our bar. But if you're a member of our bar, that your CLEs are included. Some of your CLEs are included and they're free. So for attorneys, that's a good thing to get some free CLEs, especially in Indian law.
Well, I've went to the Bar Association meetings before, and you know, there's 40, maybe 30, 50 who have participated in my experience. How many members are in our bar? Do we know?
300 or so.
So it's not anywhere near all of our people are showing up and taking advantage of this.
Right. I mean, some attorneys choose to go to continuing legal education in whatever their field is. For me, I went to Federal Indian Bar. I went to their CLE back in April in Arizona. So I'm just going to get some extra free ones tomorrow.
I am not unsupportive of the effort. I really am not. I just think it's a shallow effort because it means nothing. Yeah. Because the bar, I think it would make more sense that we send a resolution saying the Cherokee Nation Bar Association needs to actually put some standards in place before we adopted this.
Well, I think we leave it to the justices to make that determination. This is just some recommendations that we're making to the Department of our Justice. Is all we're saying here. And then they can take those and you say shallow. Well, maybe not. I don't agree with that. I think it's a way to bring our people into having an education of who we are. Just being a member of the Cherokee Bar Association, to me, that means something.
That's
not to you, but it means something to me.
I just want it to mean something.
Okay. Well, and we'll leave that up to the appropriate people.
Yeah.
We're just giving them suggestions. Okay. Yes, Councilor Jordan.
I got a question. Okay. So with this, the justices are going to control who the chief appoints. So it's going to be up to the justices to approve it. Is that correct?
Wait a minute.
That's the way I see it.
Wait. This has nothing to do with that. Yes, AG, would you answer that question, please?
What a resolution has is an effect of the will of the council. It is a suggestion, as Speaker Byrd said. It is a suggestion that each one of you may individually consider the next time that a justice is appointed, such as today. So therefore, it is not a requirement of anybody. It is a statement of the council saying, we would like a nominee to be a member of the Supreme Court Justice, or the Supreme Court, or Cherokee Nation Bar, etc. So therefore, the requirements that are being put forward to be a member of the bar are within the purview of the Cherokee Nation Bar Association, or the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. So we wanted to have a test, or we wanted to have an increased bar fee, or we have to that effect. That is before the court. But this resolution would not make it it is a suggestion that it's not a requirement that an individual be a member of the Cherokee Nation Bar Association. The requirements are set forth in the Constitution and they cannot be added to.
And that's why we backed off the legislation. I met with the AG before we even did this resolution. Well, anybody else? Yes, Councilor Buzzer.
Well, I guess what I look for in a justice is what I'd like to see is somebody that knows some culture, identity for our Cherokee tribe or Indian tribes. Not somebody that's got a law degree and comes in and knows absolutely nothing about an Indian tribe. That's what I would look for. It'd be nice if they knew some culture, and it'd be nice if they did participation in our election processes. That's what the big argument was over the last justice we tried to put on there. But that's what I look for. And I would be more in supportive of a person that come to me that knew our culture, had been supportive of our tribe, participated in our elections and things like that. That's what I look for in a justice. May not be any out there, but that's what I would look for. That's my thinking, Bob. Thanks, sir.
Point well taken. Yes, Councilor Vasquez.
Mr. Speaker, would any, if there are any members currently of the Supreme Court that are not members of that bar, in your view, would they need to comply like now?
Would they need to comply?
With what you're proposing?
If they practice in our court, they are a member of our bar.
They already are, all
Yes.
of them automatically. Okay, just wondered. Thank you.
Okay. If they're not, we need to address it, but I think they are. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Walker-Stick.
I agree with Councilman Buzzard. You know, whoever's been selected these candidates for justices have, one is they've been cultural and competent. Some of them, you know, they paid their $50 and got their Cherokee bar just, you know, the week before they were coming before this body. And then there are some of them, you know, they didn't participate in their own elections. And, you know, you want a justice that is vested and has skin in the game to come in and want to impact our Cherokee judiciary system. And, you know, I know these are recommendations to the justices, but, you know, hopefully you guys take these serious and maybe implement them of some sort for the future of the Cherokee Nation. I know, you know, the justices that were brought to us here recently, that's today. But what does this look like tomorrow in our future and generations to come in the Cherokee Nation? So, you know, Justice Garrett, as you and your body, it would be good if you guys could listen to some of these suggestions and take them to heart and help out the quality of that branch of government in the Cherokee Nation. So we will have people that are making decisions on the best interest of our Cherokee people. So anyways, we'll probably ask you these questions here in a minute. So, but anyways, Speaker, I commend you for bringing this resolution forward. I think it carries a lot of merit and it speaks volumes to our judiciary branch.
Yes. All right, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye. Got one. Okay. Thank you. And again, these are recommendations. Okay. Next, Councilor Harkness, would you take that, please?
Yes, this is a resolution confirming the reappointment of John C. Garrett as a justice of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court, and I move for its approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Chief Justice, you are here.
After that discussion, I thought I might leave. I'll be happy to try to field any questions that you have.
If there's not any questions, yes, Councilor Watkins.
Well, what are your thoughts on some of the discussion that you just heard?
Oh, I agree with, I am a member of the Cherokee Bar. Have been since, well, I think before I was even appointed to the Supreme Court. I do believe that you need to be a member of the Cherokee Bar. Talking about the culture and the understanding of the Cherokee way, so to speak. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you require, by way of a class or some kind of a pamphlet. Or I don't know the solution to that, but I concur that any knowledge is good knowledge when it comes to the Cherokee traditions, etc. So I don't know the solution. I'll be happy to bring that before the...
What you're saying is it'd be tough to measure cultural competence in our Supreme Justices. That kind of what you're saying. It'd be hard to measure that.
Be hard to, well, yeah, I guess I'm saying that, yeah.
He said he'd be willing to take any suggestions that would
Yeah,
address that.
I can take that to the court.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I've not run a survey. I'm going to assume that most of the other four are members of the Cherokee Bar. I'm saying that, and I believe that to be true. I don't know that for a fact. Quite frankly, I think he should be.
Okay. Any other question? Yes,
I
Councilor
have a
Shaw.
question. Judge Garrett, in your experience, could you tell me how important is it to understand our sovereignty and have some knowledge on our background in tribal law in your position?
Oh, I think it's absolutely imperative that we do.
Yes, anybody else?
What's as far as an exam for the Cherokee Bar, what's your thoughts on that as far as getting a test put together?
Well, let me refer you back to the Oklahoma Bar. There is no exam as such. And let me tell you, as far as the Cherokee application goes, when you apply to become a member of the Cherokee Bar, I think it's like about a 4-page questionnaire that they have to complete, along with a statement from the Oklahoma Bar Association that says they are in good standing with the Oklahoma Bar. That certificate is attached to their application. Each month, when we have our meeting, we review all applications that are made to us. We review them and then actually approve, sign our name and say we accept them as a potential member to the Bar Association. And once accepted, the payment of $50 for an annual fee, bar fee, they are members of the Bar Association. And that's not that different from the state bar. There is no, I mean, of course you have to take an exam to pass the bar, but to be a bar member is more or less just a procedure that you go through and you pay it. I always say with the state and somewhat with us, it's a money raiser. You know, you pay to play, so to speak. And I'm the guilty bird. I think our Bar Association fee, I believe initially when I came on the court, was $10. In my brilliance, I said, hey, that's not enough to do anything. If they want to be a member of our Bar Association, they need to, you know, $50 is a reasonable amount. And that has, and I can't tell you how that money is spent. I do know that, for example, tomorrow we have our, Christy, it's just, help me on this one, but it's just our annual bar meeting in Tulsa, is that correct?
Cherokee Nation Law Day.
Yeah.
Myself, Stacy Leeds, Linda Donaldson, and Ralph King are all presenting on various topics and lunch. And anything.
And how much credit can they get?
3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can get actually 3 hours of credit by attending that. So, I mean, and that's a good function. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it this year. I went last year. But it's a nice meeting and serves a good purpose, and that's part of the money where that goes.
So the opportunities there to get continuing training.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, you get through.
Yeah.
And someone said earlier, and I think the state requirement is 12 hours per year, CLE. So you pick up 3 hours there pretty easy.
Okay, any more questions for?
Well, what's the timeline generally to get approved for the Cherokee Bar application?
Oh, I think it's a pretty quick process, Counselor. Mainly, like I say, you fill the form out, and then you contact the Bar Association, and you get your certificate of, I'm going to call it certificate of good standing. And once that is there, is presented to our clerk, In the next meeting, we will go through all of the applicants, approve or disapprove. And by the way, we do disapprove some, depending on certain things within their application that don't meet our standards. We have on several occasions not approved. I might add, you're talking about how many members. We had a kind of an influx of application for membership when the opioid situation arose. We had a lot of out-of-staters that wanted to be players, probably in that particular case, but now they're members of our bar association, and we got 50 of their dollars.
Well, that was a good move there, a good PR.
What are some ways that you see that you're going to improve our judicial system?
Well, Counselor, I thought our system was operating very efficiently, to be quite frank with you. I think that our district court process is operating very well. Naturally, I'm going to tell you, I think the Supreme Court in our process of dealing with the cases that come before us are, excuse me, are handled in a timely fashion. And I'm sure there's always room for improvement. And sometimes when you're in the fire, you don't see how big the flames are. And this goes back to we welcome suggestions from the council. And maybe there's something that we don't see, that you see, that is a real issue, you know. And we have no problem with that being advised of, hey, why not? And if we say, hey, by golly, you're right, we can make the changes accordingly, you know, within the perimeter of the system.
Well, I mean, you know, my 7 years being on here, I've watched the judicial system quite a bit, and our justices, and you know, one thing that comes to mind is the Freedman issue, and you know when all that, the timing of how all that went down, and then your court would issue a statement that contradicted our current Constitution, and I had some conflict with it, you know, and I know you guys rule what you need to, but the time when there was a 30, Todd, was it 30 minutes? Or there was a 30-minute turnaround when Todd submitted something to the Supreme Court that was, I believe it was a ruling from the district court, and then you guys rendered a statement or an order to the Cherokee Nation to start processing cars for freedmen, and it wasn't a final order, but it was a what's the word? The order, it was a what's the terminology for it? Yeah, it was like a preliminary order.
Temporary.
Yeah, temporary. Yeah. So I don't know. That's just those are some things I question our Supreme Court on some of those things. You know.
And you know, we all have a right to agree or disagree, not only with our court, but United States Supreme Court. We do that on a regular basis. And one thing that I want to remind you, and I know Judge will agree with me here, is we don't make decisions that's contrary to the United States Constitution. We comply with the United States Constitution, and I think we say that in our oath, and it's in our Constitution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if they make a ruling, then we usually have to adhere to that.
Well, I guess I question your judgment, I guess, on the what our Constitution says and how you guys make an order.
And quite frankly, without sounding to be smart or anything, that's certainly you're right. Obviously, and I remember, without going back and reviewing, I can't really address exactly the fact situation you give me. But I would say this, and obviously we felt that it was a correct decision, and you have a right to not agree.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that probably you say that I don't agree with, but yet I accept and understand the process. So but all in all, I have to tell you, I'm very proud of the way this court system works. And by the way, proud of the new courtrooms. And if you've not seen them, you should come up and see those. They're first class. And we enjoy the privilege of serving in a facility such as that.
Okay. Justice, I appreciate you clearing that up. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure to appear before you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anytime you have questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
All right.
Counselor Vasquez, you want to take the next one?
Yes. A resolution confirming the appointment of Frankie Hargis as registrar for the Cherokee Nation Registration Committee. Form of a motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Have a discussion, Chair.
Yes.
Can we ask the candidate some questions?
I guess you may, you know her. You want to sit there, Frankie, or you want to put her on the witness stand?
Let's go to witness stand, probably better.
Why is it better?
We'll give you a little leeway here, Counselor, not much. Okay, Counselor Walkenstick, you're up.
Thank you. Well, Councilman first is, tell us why you're qualified for this position.
The position is to oversee registration and to sign the cards and the 8x10s and such. I have an education. It requires a bachelor's degree. I have that. I have some supervisory experience over the years. What else do you want to know?
Well, was there about 30 employees over there?
I believe there's 36 right now.
Okay. And so what are your goals for the registrar department?
To continue the progress that they've made under Miss O'Leary. They came a long ways from a 3-4 year backup to maybe 2 months now, I think, and to continue that progress.
Okay. And right now, your current role as a counselor, do you see it fit to exit in the middle of a term to fulfill this duty? Is this, I mean, are you okay with it as far as leaving your seat?
Obviously, because I accepted the recommendation or the nomination from Chief Baker.
What, do you think you better serve your people in registration than being a council member?
Well, I believe we need a registrar, and I was asked to fill that position. So, yes, I believe I can serve well over there.
What about the people who made campaign contributions to your campaign? Do you think it's fair to them that you're exiting early, or?
I believe that they contributed to my campaign because they believed in my ability, and that ability that they believe in is something that I will also take to this new position.
So currently, right now, you don't see any ways of improving registrar. You're content on the way it's going right now?
Well, I'm not privy to all the ins and outs of it, David, but I will get to know what's going on over there, and if there's improvements to be made, I will strive to make them.
What's your, as far as the Freedman applications that are pending, what are your goals for those applications?
To have them go through as quickly as possible, just as any other application.
Do you see any of those being expedited or as far as over other citizens in the Cherokee Nation?
I don't see anyone being expedited over any other one unless it's the school children that need the cards for their schooling.
Good answer.
So is it a first come, first serve? Is that kind of your policy?
I believe they have separate ones that handle the Freedman applications because they're a little different than the other applications, and so they will be processed and put through as they come in.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to hear. Now the other, the cards that are some of the citizens that may not be actual citizens of the Cherokee Nation. What are your plans for those folks?
I will follow the law that says that tells us what we can do.
I mean, are you going to go through and investigate and go through those files to determine if they're citizens of the Cherokee Nation, or are you just going to just?
I believe we have someone on contract that does that.
Okay. Chairman, I don't have any other questions.
Yes, Councilor Taylor.
I just have a comment after looking through your resume. It appears you have spent all of your adult life serving the Cherokee people in some capacity or another. I was not aware of all that, and so I think this is just an extension of what you've spent your life's work doing. So, good for you.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Bakershaw.
Thank you. I'm aware that some of the members in the registration office, that there are employees who are privy to work at home. And my question to you is this: if they're working at home, what safeguards the information in registration department? What's the safeguards do we have in line to prevent any foul use of the information?
I'm not familiar with the safeguards at this time. I haven't got into the position, so I'm not aware of what they are. So. But I will certainly check on that.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Critton.
Hey, Dare County, I appreciate your service and just wish you well. And there's a lot of roads ahead of everybody, and I think I would be remiss by not saying that what I said is I wish you well and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Hatfield.
Thank you for your service. I think you're a great Cherokee warrior, and I appreciate everything you've done for our people, our Cherokee people, and I think you'll do a great job. Look forward to traveling with you. Thank you for your service.
Councilor England.
Yeah, thank you. Frankie, you and I go back a long way, and I wish you well in this new job, and you know, I've got somebody behind me supporting, you know, hoping that you do well too. So she told me to wish you luck too.
Thank you.
You know who that is. So.
Yes, Councilor Vasquez.
Yes, Frankie, I just wanted to say I've enjoyed every moment of serving with you, and I believe you represent Cherokee women in a great way, and I think you'll continue to do so. And thank you for taking this on. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Shambaugh.
I don't know who's going to sit next to me in the future, but I can say, you know, you've helped me a lot when I first came in and I didn't know anything. So whenever you pointed to what I was supposed to read or what I was supposed to do, nobody told me what I was supposed to do. I'll miss you, and I've enjoyed working with you. And thank you for everything you've done for me.
Anybody else? Councilor Warner.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jerry. Frankie, we've done some good work together, been on some good work groups, Housing Authority, and I look forward to supporting you and your new endeavor, and anything that you need, I'll always be there. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Speaker.
Let you give everybody else a chance first.
Okay.
Okay. I'd just like to make a comment. I will miss you really, because you're always keeping me in line at council meetings. People don't see who's working behind the scenes on what resolution we're on, who's made the motion, who's made the second. And, the chief, we have many people that could fill that director position out there. But for some reason, they chose you. And I know why, because you succeed and you represent your people. You've done that all your life. And I have no doubt whatever position they would put you in, then you would succeed, because that's just the type of person that you are. I will miss you for sure, but on the other side, I'm very, very happy for you that you're going to be able to serve us in a different capacity, and just as equal as how you served us on the council. So you will be missed, but you're not going to be that far from us anyway. So I appreciate everything you've done. Yes, Councilor Walkstead, one more question.
All right, thanks, Speaker. Frankie, what's your views as far as the registration, sharing information with the administration?
I'll have to see what's legally, what we're legally able to share.
Okay, because, recently it's kind of been some of the forms that are submitted to some of the people in registration. It states that there's like some type of disclaimer where that form can be shared with the admin to use for mail outs and those type of things. I just didn't know what your thoughts were on that. If that's something that you're okay with, or is it something that you're trying to prohibit from happening?
If I'll have to look at that form, but if it's on there and the people sign it, then I'm okay with their information being shared with administration. But if they don't want to agree with that, then it won't be shared. Okay.
Are you going to keep that disclaimer on the registration form, or are you going to try to amend it, take it off? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
David, I really don't.
David,
I'm not in that position yet.
I think we have to give her a chance to even get at her desk. I'll give you an analogy, David, and it'll be real short. The Secretary of Interior, Zinke, we tribes would like for him to do certain things for us. But do you think he's independent in his decision making, or do you think he has to go to the higher up and get his directives?
He probably goes higher up and get his directives.
There's your answer. All right.
Okay. Well,
is that it? We got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, congratulations. Resolution number 3, Councilor Vasquez, you want to take that? Okay. Councilor Austin, you want to take that?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve a substitute resolution, which we were all provided today, which differs from the one in the book solely with respect to the timeline that was approved by the Election Commission.
Okay. You got a motion and a second. Now we'll open up for discussion. I was the sponsor, and I'm okay with that.
Is this time to ask questions, Speaker?
Yes.
I guess is the Election Commission President.
Connie or Harvey?
Harvey, you got your election code out?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll start from the beginning of this whole thing. So the actual email or timeline that you guys received, actually, let me take that back, Carney, because I believe you guys said you guys worked on the timeline yourself, but the actual date on December the 29th, where did you guys receive that from? As far as the special election date?
I think that was a recommendation from the administration.
Okay. And I guess my next question is the Election Commission, are they an independent agency.
Yes.
So, under the Constitution, do you guys receive directive from the administration, or you guys receive directive from the council on setting general or special election dates?
Well, I don't think we received a directive from anyone. We received a request for
The administration.
a timeline. And the Constitution addresses the issue of a councilor resigning and calling a special election. And that's what that's what we look at. And the Constitution provides that the council calls the election, sets the election date. And that's what you all are considering here today. What we have done at the commission is provided you a proposed timeline that we feel is necessary if you want to have this election prior to the time we get involved in the general election. And that's why the timeline, I think you all have been prepared to provide a timeline. The commission went over in their last special meeting, and they went over in detail the timeline and what they could do. They were very concerned that if you push the timeline up into a future date, a few days or a week, that you're going to be into the filing period for the general election, and that there may well not be time to conduct the special election, get all the time frames in, and get all that done if it's pushed up. That's why the date that was proposed of December 29th, that's why that date is probably about the last date that you could use if you are going to get this election done before the general election process starts.
How many, Connie, how many hours did you guys spend on this timeline, putting it all together?
Together, we met together at least 3-4 times and spent multiple hours on it, probably 4 or 5.
Did it ever occur to you guys that if the council selected a different date, that it would change the whole, it would just cancel out all of your hard hours of work?
Yes.
Because November 6th, you guys had a special election commission meeting that I attended, and I know some of the election commissioners were asking if they should approve the proposed timeline under the contingency of the tribal council approving it. And you guys went ahead and you guys said, no, we're not going to do it on contingent of the council, that we have the authority to set the timeline and the proposed timeline. And so you guys went ahead and approved it. And so my fear, and I don't know how the other council's thinking in here, but my fear is if the council wants to set a date that's later, instead of middle of the Christmas holidays, you know, when people may not be around, but maybe after the holidays, that it could potentially mess up the timeline that you guys spent hours working on. That's what I don't want. I mean, it's money out of our pocket and money wasted in my books. So just, as I told you, I kept saying, I feel like we kind of put the cart before the horse. You know, it made sense if the council would have set the date, you know, constitutionally, and then you guys went to the table and put a timeline based off of that versus getting a proposed timeline from the administration and, you know, and then going off of that, or a proposed date of the election.
Now, let me address that. The reason the council or the commission had the special meeting at that time and did that is the Rules Committee put on the agenda consideration of a special election. And if you were going to consider the special election, we felt you need to know what the time frames would have to be before you could decide what date that you would want to have the election. And I might reference to you the election code provision that deals with special elections. And it is section 51C of the election code. And it deals with special elections, special dates, and procedures. It provides that the dates and the deadlines, the timeframes for filing for various mailing of ballots and all this, that they can be changed for a special election. But specifically, it provides that the council will set the election, but that the timelines may be changed and specifically set by the election commission. The election commission has to set the dates and the timelines. That has to be confirmed by the council, and the statute says shall be set by the commission and confirmed by the council. So the commission felt that in order for you to consider setting the election at this meeting, that it was known, that they would have to provide you prior to the meeting a time frame that they felt that they could do, that would be acceptable, and that's what they did. That's why they had that meeting on March the 6th, so that if they could come up with a definite time frame to present to you that you could consider. And they considered at that meeting whether or not the time frame could be extended, whether or not the filing period could be extended, whether or not the appeal times and all that. The items that basically were in the control of the election commission, which is the filing period, the dates that time they have to do the investigation, the time that any citizen has to contest the eligibility of any candidate. That was shortened from 5 to 3 days. Filing period shortened from 4 to 2 days. And the time for preparing the absentee ballots, they've got 1 day. If we have a runoff, they've got 1 day to get the ballots printed and stuffed the next day. And so they have shortened it down as much as they could. And of course, the reason they're shortening it, once you get into the filing period for the other one, then there's people coming in and filing. The commission really can't, they got to devote basically their entire time to the general election. But if the council determines that this date or that's recommended in the timeline is not acceptable, then they won't be confirmed by the council, and that timeline cannot be accepted. It would have to go back to the commission for a different date that would have to be, and the council would have to come up with a new timeline to fit that date under the statute of the election law. And the council or the commission, they don't care when you set the date. You can set it for March 1st if you want to, and we'll come up with a timeline for that. But if we're going to, in order to get it done before the general election, this timeline is the one that we felt would have to be accomplished. And with regard to the recommendation or proposal from the administration for a timeline, that basically was a bare bones submittal. If you look at the timeline we have now, all the dates are filled in. That's what the commission had to spend hours doing, fitting in all the dates, the appeal times, the contest times, the hearing times, and all that. And the commission did feel one thing that stymied us in trying to get this done. They felt that the appeal times, which for example, for the appeal after the election, the law says that anyone has an opportunity to appeal the election on the second Monday following the election. That's like a full week period. The commission did not feel that they could legally change the appeal times that the court had, that was set up to appeal to court. That's in the statutes, and that's a due process type thing that the court has set up. So this timeline that you do have is really day by day hard to change any.
Okay.
Like I
Councilor
say, if you
Shinball?
I have a short question. The proposed timeline that you've made, when was this timeline made?
When was it made? March 6th.
March?
I'm sorry, November 6th.
Okay. Well, I don't really mind the shortness of it at all. I mean, as long as it gives everybody that, you know, everybody's going to have the same opportunities. What I do question, and I don't understand, you did this on November 6th. On November 2nd, absentee ballot requests will be accepted. That was 4 days. That's gone.
We discussed.
But people have lost 4 days of getting their absentees. I mean, and that's, I don't understand how you can do that, actually.
Okay.
And I mean, how can you do that?
I'll be happy to address that.
Okay.
We discussed that issue in detail at the meeting. And November 2nd is the date that the Rules Committee filed their agenda showing that this item would be on the docket. We felt that we may have people at that time, when they found out about that, would be submitting absentee ballot requests. And if they did, and sure enough, we have had some absentee ballot requests that were submitted on or shortly after that time.
Well, I guess
we felt that we would
just wait just a minute. I guess my question would be, if you haven't had, does normally a filing happen before the absentee ballots?
Yes, no. Under our general election.
So you can, in past, you can do absentees before you file.
Under our code, the absentee ballots for the general election is coming up in 2019. You can start requesting absentee ballots in January, and the filing period is
Well,
not
I
until.
understand that, but I'm talking about, you know, in this instance, I just, this, like I said, this is the only thing that bothers me about this thing is if it was confirmed on the 6th that you could start on the 2nd. I don't understand that. I mean, don't you think that opens you up for some type of appeal later on from Candace, because you've lost 4 days? I mean, people, if you're in the know, I guess. I mean, if everybody knew, that's fine. But you know, or did everybody? How do you notify people? I mean, are they supposed to watch the meeting and get it, or like you're saying? That's why the validity of this concerns me, because on the 6th, it's 4 days past the 2nd, and you know that's when that just doesn't make sense to me. And even I would like to even maybe hear from our attorney to get her thoughts on it. I mean, because that's 4 days after the 2nd that this was even approved. I mean, I don't understand that. In my mind, it doesn't make sense.
Harvey, go ahead and finish what you were on there. I want to know how you do have absentee ballot requests before
The concern
filing.
of the commission was that you would possibly disenfranchise some voters that had already filed their absentee request and didn't know it wouldn't be granted. They wanted to pick the first possible time that people would know about the possibility of the special election being called. And they relied upon the part of the statute, basically in the general election, that allows the absentee request to be some time before you even know who's going to be running. But as far as that, you know, as far as the commission is concerned, they felt that would give more Cherokee citizens an opportunity to vote and get a ballot. And if that's a concern to the council, the commission certainly I wouldn't think has any problem if you want to change it to November 6th. not going to affect anything else on this. It's just that some people that may have submitted an absentee ballot request between November 2nd and November 6th, those people wouldn't get ballots.
I understand, but it's the 14th now. I mean, and you know, you're talking about doing things that's in the past.
And absentee ballot requests can be accepted up through December 14th, looks like.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Vasquez.
Can you ask the Attorney General to address the timeline for the issue?
Well, we got 10 minutes. We got a special council meeting. We're going to try to give everybody a chance to get speak. Yeah, we'll get to that. I wanted Harvey to address the how do you justify what Councilor Shambod, and you did, the election code that you can request absentee ballot requests before filing, and you quoted that, and that's what I wanted to hear. So you justified it for me. I don't know, anybody else may have a question here. We got 10 minutes. Yes, Councilor Critton.
All right. First of all, my only concern is that we have a fair, and that's a relative term, election for everyone. I've, of course, been in Adair County. I know every name on there. And all the smiles and everything else not going to keep me from saying what I want to say right now. My only concern, like I said, fair for all 6, I believe, possibly 7, whoever else comes into play. And I spoke with someone about the quickness of it. I don't have a problem with the quickness of it. When I found out about this, my first thought was, when was this plan began? You know, the Election Commission, the council, you know, we're kind of in the hot seat right now. But we had no idea this was coming at us. And so now it's council. We got this date, and you better do it or you're going to mess the whole thing up. Well, a lot of us didn't ask to be in this position. Election Commission, council. And from what I've seen since I got the text about 10 o'clock at night that this was maybe going to happen, there's some things that just don't smell right to me. And it all boils down to the playground fairness. I had a phone conversation with someone at the Election Commission right when I heard about it, and they said, "Sean, you're putting us on the spot." And I said, "How in the world am I putting you on the spot? I've got some friends and some acquaintances thinking about running for this seat. They've been thinking about it a long time. And they're wanting to know the dates they can start this absentee business." And they referred me to the 14th today. And what kind of alarmed me that day was they said the only information that was sent out was to Chuck Jr. And that, you know, independent election commission, 3 branches of government. I didn't get my questions answered that day. If I wanted to convey to someone, and there was folks with that information that I didn't get, and I'm not saying they conveyed it to anyone, but they had the opportunity to. And one more time, all the names in that list are good people. all of them. But from the way this is being handled and at this point, I don't feel like some of those names will get a fair shot, be it the absentee ballot issue. You know, I would have liked a public announcement, election's going to be here. By golly, if you're going to run, you can start your paperwork here. I've heard you can get your absentee ballot request on a blank sheet of paper. I've heard that. And I've heard it could be or could not be or had to be or didn't matter if it was dated. And like I said, I like to plan things out like Paul Crittenden. I used to ask him to go somewhere and we got to plan it out. But I'm starting to be just like him. This rush thing, so far, I don't like it. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. We have 5 minutes, and we're going to have this special council meeting here in 5 minutes. I'll take a few more questions, and we got to vote on 3 to get to our special meeting. Yes, Councilor Shaw.
Yes, I see when Kaylin sent that to the Election Commission on November the 6th, that the timeline that you all approved on the absentee ballot request starts on November the 2nd. What alarms me is I don't think this is legal. I think that I really feel in my heart that the Election Commission has come and overruled basically the tribal council. We haven't even issued the fact that we're going to have an election. Am I wrong in assuming that this is the body that sets that?
What you have here is a proposed timeline.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. How are we proposing that absentee ballots are happening for an election that we haven't approved? This sounds illegal.
The same way that, well, the absentee ballots were proposed because in advance of the filing period, just like it is in the general election. That was the theory behind the mission. If this election is not approved, this whole thing is moot.
Next question. Who in the world has time to vote between Christmas and New Year's? I mean, these dates are terrible. I mean, we all should know a lot of us aren't even here for the holidays. I think it's an unfair disadvantage to any citizen in Adair who wants to vote. And I would like to suggest that we talk to our attorney, our council attorney, and get her input and her advice.
I agree.
As I've said before, whether and when you call an election is the council's decision under the Constitution and under the election law.
They're proposing a date here, timeline, and we have to confirm it or not confirm. It's really pretty simple, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't acted on anything. This is a proposal. And we'll let democracy take its shape here in a minute. Kate, they won't, Talina, you got 3 minutes. But we have a special meeting coming up, Counselor. And you either vote yes or you vote no.
I think we should table this, but I'll do it later.
Okay.
What questions do you have?
Talina, is this legal, what's happening here?
Ultimately, that would be up to a court to decide whether, if someone were to file a lawsuit, the court would decide whether this is legal or not.
In your opinion, professionally, do you think that this November the 2nd absentee ballot request accepted, is that legal? I mean, advise us as counselors.
I do have some concerns with it because it potentially could be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, which requires the Election Commission to conduct business in an open forum, just like council does. Because this was approved on the 6th, approving a past date, I'm wondering if maybe there was a meeting prior to the 2nd?
Mr. Chafin, can you answer that?
No, if I remember correctly, this date of November 2nd was developed and decided at the time of the meeting of March, November 6th meeting. I think I think the previous, I don't have that here, but I think the previous date was was later, even been the 14th or so. I think the commission decided to back it up to give more voters an opportunity to vote based on the fact that they may have known this election was coming when the agenda was posted for the rules meeting, which was November 2nd.
Hold on.
Point of order, please.
What's up?
If there's a law violation, our Attorney General has to weigh in. Why can we not hear from our AG?
I think what they explained to us is how this would work out if there's a violation. That's what our courts are for. But we're not going to handle it here as a legislative body. I mean, that's not the process that it works. If there's a violation, if whoever the candidate is that feels like they need to appeal, there's a system that you go through, but you're not going to resolve it here.
Hey, Speaker, I have
Hold
one
on.
question.
Hold on. Anybody else?
I have a question, Speaker.
Okay, I'm going to give you one question because you got to give everybody else a chance to talk.
Thank you. Connie, the document that you sent to the council with the whole entire timeline, when you open up on your properties, you guys said that you guys developed this yourself within the hard hours you guys put in. Well, when you pull up, the author is Kaylin Free, okay? And it was created on Tuesday, November the 6th at 11:30 a.m. You guys had a meeting November the 6th at, was it 4 p.m. or 5 p.m.? And you had saved it. You were the last one to save it here on this deal. Did you or did you not receive this timeline from Kaylin Free?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to pass this documentation around to the council to let them see this.
Oh, that one that she sent? Yes.
Oh, okay.
we received
Now
it,
she
but
sent it.
We didn't use it.
Okay. So you didn't use that one?
No.
Well, the document that you sent to all the council, she was the author of it, and you was the one that saved it and sent it to all of us.
Not the one, I have to look at it.
But you just said earlier that you guys are the ones that did this timeline.
Two of the commissioners.
Who is Kaylin Free to submit a timeline to the election commissioner, and then the election commissioner submit it to the election commission to be approved? Does she work for you? Does she work for Chief? Does she work for Secretary of State? Who does she work for?
I don't know.
Then why are you carrying her timeline to the election commission?
It was a timeline of a suggestion.
Hey, AG, hold on a minute.
Be at your service.
Okay. This needs to be investigated. The marshals needs to be pulling your laptop in the election commission stuff and investigate this. This is unethical because one is, the history is that she's ran Chief Baker's campaign and many other council members' campaign, and now she's getting involved into our independent election commission. Chairman, that's all I have to say.
Now, Mr. AG.
Mr. Washington, the answer is very simple. Ms. Kaylin Free is the personal attorney of the principal chief. Principal chief, under Constitution, is the one who calls a special meeting of the tribal council. That meeting must have a purpose, the purpose of which is to call a special election. It only makes sense for his attorney to contact the election commission and say, these are a proposed date, and these are what would be the appropriate timeline to go about it. It's simple. There's no conspiracy. There's no unethical about it. It's all, you are here to approve the meeting or the election or not. If you don't, we don't have one, although you're required to have one within 90 days of the resignation. Simple.
It works for the chief.
I'm gonna pass these around.
You pass it out. We're getting ready to vote on this because you can either vote yes or no. Everybody's got their opinion. Okay, you had a motion. You had a second. Let's do. You want to do roll call vote on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, roll call vote, Shelley. Yes.
It's the timeline that was
Yes.
handed to us today. Not
Yes, the timeline that was handed to us today.
Can Lena say one thing? Can she reiterate her concern one more time before we vote? It affects every one of us. That's her job.
Yes, it is, but we've kind of hashed this over and over. I think everybody's got their opinion made up, no matter who we bring to the table here. You're either going to vote yes or no. And if we say no, then we'll take it back to the drawing table. Correct, Connie? Okay. All right, roll call.
Sean Crittenden?
No.
Mike Dobbins?
Mike, where are you?
Frankie Hargis? Yes. Wanda Hatfield?
Yes.
Rex Jordan?
Yes.
Dick Lay? Mike Shambaugh?
No.
Mary Bakershaw?
No.
E.O. Smith?
Yes.
Janice Taylor?
Yes.
Victoria Vasquez?
Yes.
David Walkingstick?
No.
Brian Warner?
Yes.
Gil Anglin?
No.
Keith Austin?
Yes.
Harvey Buzzard?
No.
Joe Byrd?
Yes.
All right.
9-6, it passes.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, then we will swear in. Okay?
Now, just for the regular council members, that'd be like $5,500 a year. The nation matches that. And as far as Social Security purposes, they take your 35 highest years of pay. So that would be, on the positive side, that would be, you know, $63,000 added on top of what you're making, the ones that are working. So that definitely would be some high years to boost your Social Security up when you retire.
So if you're on the verge of drawing Social Security, it's really...
Yeah, I mean, you know, even what you're making could probably, you know, knock out some lower years when you're making $20,000 a year when you're younger or whatever. So, I mean, it could definitely have a boost to your Social Security. Now, flip side of that is you're going to have money taken out of your paycheck that you're not paying right now. So.
Okay, I guess we'll give it some thought and get back with you then.
I mean, and it would.
Will we have to take action on this?
You guys pass it, and it becomes it has to be approved through Social Security Administration, and they're actually still developing the regulations on how it's all going to work. It would become effective the first of the month following when the agreement is made.
Is this time sensitive, Jody?
It's not really that time sensitive.
Chairman, I make a motion we table till next month.
It's only discussion only.
Oh, discussion only?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to discuss it next month.
All right. Need a motion. Need a motion to adjourn.
Okay.